Speaker.
I call the honourable member Mike Sabin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to take a call on this first reading of the Child Support Amendment Bill. Can I firstly just apologise, Mr Speaker, I've recently arrived in the House having come from Select Committee, so I apologise if I retraverse some of the material already spoken to. However, as someone who has been a sole parent, Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to support this bill and rather disappointed in the comments from the previous speaker on this bill. I just want to reflect on some of the important components that this bill is really set to address, and that is really, if we question what the end game actually is here, Mr Speaker, and that is ensuring that we have a fair child support system that reflects what New Zealand is now, as opposed to the introduction of the scheme back in 1992. And I think it's fair to say, Mr Speaker, that parents and the relationships of parents when they have separated is quite different than what it was back then. Mr Speaker, it's sad to say that unfortunately many parents, when separated, do not fulfil their obligations with their children. I think to some extent it's a long bow to draw to suggest that the amount of child support that they're paying, or the fact that they are paying, is going to have any effect on how that money is ultimately used by the recipient. And there are many other ways in which we need to be addressing this, in my view. The Child Support Act, Mr Speaker, I believe has become a very blunt instrument. The formula itself does provide for disproportionate variances, which does negatively impact and in many ways actually creates problems with the relationship shared by parents who are genuinely trying to do their best. Mr Speaker, this bill will address three important changes, and I just want to reflect on those as the last speaker for this first reading. Mr Speaker, the formula provides a greater recognition for shared care. I certainly was in a position as a solo father where care of my children did probably break the mould to some extent in terms of a father being a primary caregiver. And I think this is modern New Zealand, and while it is sad that many individuals, couples find themselves separated, it is a reality that has to be confronted and dealt with in a fair and constructive manner. The formula also, Mr Speaker, I think better recognises the amount of debt that has been amassed over some period of time. Previous speakers have alluded to it, some $2 billion, 60% of which really amounts to penalties. And so you get a unintended consequence in many regards, Mr Speaker, in my view, that parents will turn and run because of the implications of the penalties and the wall that they find themselves up against. So I think it's very important, Mr Speaker, that there has to be some reality in how that is addressed. Mr Speaker, the formula, which to me is at the heart of the changes in this bill, are really looking at addressing the shared care and the threshold at which that shared arrangement can be taken into account, Mr Speaker. The threshold shifting from 40% to 28%, I think, provides a much fairer and level playing field and encourages the involvement of both parents in the upkeep and the upbringing and the shared both financial but also parental responsibilities that they must have. Mr Speaker, it also takes into account the incomes of both parents in this equation, and I think that's very important, rather than just simply the scale of the input to or the amounts paid by one parent simply reflected in their own income and their increasing income. This gives, again, a much fairer representation of what it is to be a parent bringing up children in a separated household. Mr Speaker, the other third and important part of the formula, in my view, is that the formula uses a new scale of costs, which is more up to date with the costs of raising the children and how those costs actually vary. And addresses the anomaly, in my view, Mr Speaker, that results from some parents whose income rises, creates a situation where there's more disposable income, and that's not necessarily reflected in the costs of bringing up that child. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House. It really is about getting a fairer system that will benefit the interests of both parents and children. It's more reflective of New Zealand today, and that can only mean for better outcomes for both the parents in a challenging situation and their children, and I encourage members to remember that end game. It is about supporting better outcomes for these children. Thank you.
The question is that the Child Support Amendment Bill be considered by the Social Services Committee. Sorry? My correction. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. Aye. The ayes have it. Party vote is called for. Clerk, please conduct a party vote. Thank you.
New Zealand National. 59 votes in favour. New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Māori Party. 3 votes in favour. Mana.
1 vote opposed.
Act New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
Honourable members, the ayes are 106, the noes are 15. The motion is agreed to. The question now is that the Child Support Amendment Bill be considered by the Social Services Committee. Those that are in opinion will please say aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it. I therefore call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Administration of Community Sentences and Orders Bill, first reading.
I call the Honourable Minister, Anne Tolley.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Administration of Community Sentences and Orders Bill be now read a first time.